Hey, it's Beth here. I got 2 movie reviews. Episode 497. Okay, the first one is Priscilla. I don't know why she's doing that. Okay. There are a lot of problems with this movie. One of them is the girl that plays Priscilla is just not that technically beautiful. I was a kid when all this Priscilla stuff was happening. And that she was a kid in Germany, and you're like, what's going on? And then you see a picture of her, and you're like, oh my God, this is way before plastic surgery. She had this face that no one else had. And this person who plays her, she's pretty, but she's not exquisite. It just doesn't make any sense. And the guy who plays Elvis isn't exquisite either. The whole thing just didn't feel right to me. So I did some digging, and I found out that, the family didn't want it made at all. And Lisa Marie went crazy when she read the script. She said it was vengeful and contemptuous, and she was very upset that her mother wanted it made. It was, you read about when she died, there was a rift in the family. It was about this movie. And she begged Sophia not to do it. She said her twin daughters had been through enough. Lisa Marie had been through an horrific divorce, horrific custody battle, and then the girls lost their brother, and Lisa lost her son, and they just couldn't cope with any more. She said the Elvis movie that came out before made her twins happy to see their grandfather like that, gave him a boost. The whole family felt great, and they were just coming out of things, and this movie was going to bring them down. Her whole family, as any family would be, was very affected by what happened to the legacy. So Sophia denied her, not even listening, not even paying attention. So that's why the movie also, it was banned from using the music catalog. So it just has a bad vibe. And it reminds me of the Meryl Streep movie where she was playing Julia Childs. And it was the year about that girl who did every recipe in the cookbook. And they made a movie of it. And Julia begged him not to do it. It was way too personal. It had a lot to do with her inability to have a child and how she felt about herself. And she begged them, please don't do it. And they kept doing it. And she died. She died worried about this movie coming out. Just like Lisa Marie died. I mean, it did have a spooky vibe. And I didn't know why. But, and you're not going to hear that anywhere else because it's not a popular thing to say. But the next movie, Holdovers, it was a really nice story. And it was really beautifully filmed. All those, I think they used 5 different prep schools on the East Coast, and the snow falling, and the beauty of it. And my favorite part was the mother. She's this amazing actress. She reminds me of, she's Oscar winning. She's fabulous. Her name is Divine Joy Randolph. And she plays this character. Her son goes to the prep school. She's black. Her son goes to the prep school. She works as a cook in the prep school to get him into the prep school. And he's like one of the only kids who went off into the war. This is done in the 60s, this movie. And the boy dies. The way she handles it, I was riveted. Absolutely riveted. She tries so hard to be good and so hard to be kind and loving. And she makes it. She has this one bad night where they go to this party and she gets drunk. But she gets drunk in this nice way. She's not mean. She doesn't blow up. There's no George and Martha scene. It's like she's a nice drunk, which you never ever see. She just alleviated some of her pain. So I loved that whole aspect of the story. The movie was, it kind of told a half story about their relationship. There's a scene where Paul wants to tell him about the one love he ever had in his life, and he never does. There's a lot of, just like Gary Salt said, they opened a lot of cans of beans and they didn't eat them. And then at the end, Paul Giacomo, he gives up something, and the boy goes on to stay at the school and he has to leave. And it's not like the boy says, you gotta come for my graduation. I gotta see you again. I can't stand it. They just part. It's so weird. It's so unbelievable. So, that just didn't fly with me. I would imagine that the boy would need this man because they depended on each other. So that was just pretty strange. The interesting thing is the writer should have actually written, he based this story on his own uncle who saved his life. So the writer's mother and father got this horrible divorce, and he stopped going to school, he stopped talking, he stopped doing everything, and the father kind of disappeared. So everybody was saying, what do we do with this kid? Something had to be done, and the something that came to do something about it was Uncle Earl. He was married to the boy's mother's older sister, and they lived in Manhattan. He drove 120 miles each weekend to spend time with this boy, to help him go to school, learn some values, and they went fishing. They did everything together. He taught him how to treat a dog, how to read a book, how to shoot a gun, how to do a chainsaw, how to eat Chinese food with chopsticks. He was the most amazing uncle anyone had. And he did it every single weekend. He never failed this boy. Now that would have been a great story. And they stayed close the guy's entire life, which happens. If you let somebody into your heart, they stay with you the entire life. Till he was 94. This guy stayed so close to his Uncle Earl. And in this movie, and that was the very last scene. He's like, okay, bye. I'm just like, no, don't take me down this path and then just have this, tacked on ending that doesn't make any sense and is so unfair to Paul. The other thing is, it's an Oscar moment. And, the Oscar moment in Sideways, when they were talking about Merlot, and you look directly into his eyes, okay, that was great. They did 5 of those scenes in this movie. It was overkill. It was a little too long. And it was Paul just being an actor and acting. And they didn't give him any character arc. It just didn't happen. They didn't give him anything to work with. All they gave him to work with was his eyes, which is fine. And one doesn't move and the other one does, and it's a big joke what eye you're supposed to look into. But they didn't. Had he only been able to tell the story about that one great love that he had. And he had a disappointment where he was accused of ripping off another person's term paper at the very end. And what happened really was the rich guy's son did it, and there's a building named after them, so they blamed it on Paul, and he didn't even get to graduate from the school. We just said that scene and it was over. And I'm like, okay, but it should resonate somewhere. It should mean something. And there were just all these little things that never tied together. Was it a good movie? It's a lovely, feel-good Christmas movie. It really is. I just wish he captured his Uncle Earl a little bit, because the way this guy writes about his uncle, he says his uncle gave him history, wisdom, and most importantly, his time. Earl dug me out from under the avalanche of my past. He turned me around, so much so that when I was offered a scholarship to a prestigious prep school, I was no longer the kid hiding in the bathtub. I was a young man with a sense of discipline and self-worth. For the next 6 years, I navigated the niceties of prep school. Earl continued to guide me. He continued to come up every weekend, constantly reminding me of my good fortune and pushing me to succeed academically. When my mother would come home from a weekend shift, he'd make damn sure that dinner was on the table for her. And as we'd watch her climb the stairs wearily to go to bed because she worked so many hours for this kid, he said this to the boy. As he was pointing to the mother going up the stairs, he said, "Be worthy of that." And I knew I had to be, because to fall short would mean that I betrayed them both. That wasn't in this movie. That bonding for life, that I will guide you and I will stay with you. It wasn't that. And now this boy who turns around and you see him walking away, lost his mother, his father, and now his friend, who isn't saying, "I will be at your graduation. I will see you in the summer. I will do whatever you need. You call me if you need me." None of that. It's just another loss. But it's supposed to be beautiful. And I just think it should have been a bit more about Uncle Earl. And this kid, the writer, absolutely knew from the very first weekend that Uncle Earl was always going to be there. And that's what a little lost kid needs. He doesn't need someone to be there for a while, like Paul is to him. He needs constant, "I'll be at your graduation. I'll be at your wedding. I'll be at the christening of your first child. I will always be the face you look up and see." And that's what this guy had in his Uncle Earl. It could have been great. But anyway, just wanted to tell you the story of who the character was based on. And I can't believe that he didn't bring any of that into the movie. So, just a big miss. I can't even believe he's talking about it. A big long article on who I based the character on. And I'm like, I don't see the character at all. I don't see Uncle Earl anywhere. So, but he thinks he did it, so who knows. Anyway, that's that. Still a nice story for your kids to see. The young character has a lovely little interlude with a girl, and that gets dropped like a hot coal too. She's adorable. She likes him. They share a kiss. We never hear another word about her. In the whole movie, what boy isn't thinking about that all during Christmas vacation and trying to get a little bit back with that? So, just kind of one note. But anyway, still good, chaste movie. You can watch it with your grandchildren. Never be embarrassed. Not 1 second is bad. So, that's what I've got, and I'll be back. Thanks.